10 years ago, humanity plunged into a nightmare. Strange rifts, ominous tears in reality, began to appear across Earth. From these rifts emerged monstrous entities of unimaginable strength. Panic spread like wildfire. These abominations, beyond the capacity of ordinary humans to vanquish, left people with no choice but to flee for their lives. However, amidst the chaos and terror, a select group rose to confront this existential threat. These extraordinary men and women, who had experienced a mysterious awakening, were bestowed with newfound abilities. These gifts empowered them to take on the otherworldly terrors that emerged from the rifts, earning them the moniker, the Hunters. They possessed the unique ability to assess their powers through status windows reminiscent of a video game, allowing them to confront and overcome the rift-spawn horrors according to their ranks. In the midst of this unfolding cataclysm, we meet our protagonist, Lee Dojin. Lee Dojin, a normal unawakened citizen, continued studying for 3 long years after finishing his military service. Lee Dojin's journey led him to a desk job within the Rift management team at City Hall. There, he grappled with paperwork and bureaucracy. His experienced and jaded colleagues didn't spare him their admonishments for his clumsy ways. Time flowed on, marking the passage of a year, and Lee Dojin found himself on the precipice of a pivotal moment. His anticipation surged as he received his inaugural official task. This mission carried him to the Gangdong district, where he was tasked with investigating the potential appearance of a rift. But fate is an unpredictable force, and the path to destiny is seldom a straight line. Along the way to his assignment, tragedy intervened in the form of a speeding truck. It struck Lee with a force that left him unconscious, and his world spiraled into darkness. When Lee's eyes fluttered open again, he found himself in a realm vastly different from the one he knew. This new world was known as Murim, where every inhabitant was a formidable swordsman, their skills honed to perfection. In this unfamiliar realm, Lee experienced death's cruel embrace countless times. However, Lee bore a unique gift, a skill bestowed upon him upon his arrival in Murim. This ability granted him the power to turn back time by a single day each time he met his demise. With each cycle of life and death, he grew stronger, more resilient, and more adept with a blade. It was a grueling process, but as the cycle repeated itself, Lee Dojin transformed into a formidable force. His name resonated throughout Murim, and he came to be known as Dojin the Heavenly Demon, the most formidable swordsman to ever walk the land. Having conquered the central plain of Murim, Lee found himself at a crossroads. He had reached the pinnacle of his power, and there was nothing left for him to achieve in this world of martial prowess. Just as abruptly as he had arrived in Murim, he was yanked from its grasp and thrust back into his original reality, the world he knew as the real world. The sudden transition was bewildering. Doctors and nurses stared in shock as Lee, who should have been a patient recovering from a grueling 17-hour surgery and a traumatic collision with a cargo truck, now stood before them seemingly unharmed and walking without a hint of discomfort. However, returning to his old life wasn't easy. Memories of his time in Korea were blurry and incomplete, like faded photographs. It would take time and patience to adjust back to his normal life. Physically, Lee was in perfect health. His body, now incredibly strong and skilled from his battles in Murim, moved with a grace he'd never known. But the scars on his hands were reminders of countless fights, and his heart carried the weight of betrayal, hardship, and countless deaths. Despite his unmatched fighting skills, Lee just wanted a peaceful and ordinary life. With a newfound determination, Lee headed to the bustling Seoul City Mall, a familiar spot from his past. The path led him back to the office where he used to work for the government. Seeing him, there was a shock. His boss couldn't believe his eyes. "Are you all right?" his boss stammered, surprised by Lee's sudden return. Lee, no longer struggling with his stutter, answered confidently, "Yes, I'm fine." His boss looked him up and down, noticing the clear changes. "You look different, even taller. What happened?" Lee Dojin, calm but firm, replied, "I've changed a bit, but it's still me." Curious but skeptical, his boss pressed on. "Did you lose your memory?" The doubts grew, so his boss called over some coworkers and asked for a fingerprint scanner. The tension thickened as Lee placed his thumb on the scanner, a test to see if he wasn't an imposter. Lee Dojin cooperated, and the results surprised everyone. The scanner confirmed it was really Lee Dojin, but his boss still wasn't convinced. He repeated the test several times in disbelief. How could someone change so drastically in just a day? In the middle of this strange reunion, a young girl watched with a smile. She couldn't help but feel happy, because the accident had actually cured Lee's speech impediment. Lee's boss, however, was still confused. "How did you get so much taller in just one day?" he asked. With a mischievous grin, the girl piped up, "Who knows?" Getting frustrated with the lingering doubts, Lee finally spoke up. Asked them to show him his workspace. His boss, giving in a bit, decided Lee could go home, rest, and come back to work the next day. Eager to get back to some kind of normal life, Lee left the office and headed for his old apartment. As he approached the familiar door, his confidence faltered when he couldn't remember the passcode. Suddenly, a voice startled him. "Who is it?" Lee turned to see a young girl coming out of the apartment, calling him Uncle. His heart sank as he struggled to recognize the girl standing in front of him.